Somebody had to give me like a one-line summary of what is your biggest problem in your marriage. I'm going to do a very broad stroke here and say that there's a very different standard that Jamie keeps for himself than he keeps for me, and it has been like that our entire marriage. Just, I'll give, real world examples to kind of give you a picture of it. Is if he is very, very busy and he is focused on a goal and a task, I sit back and support that. If he needs a drink of water, if he needs 3 hours in the room alone, I let him have that. I encourage, support him, check on him, and let him have his space for that part of his person to thrive and grow. Because I don't believe that he exists solely for me, for our relationship. He has a unique set of skills and qualities and abilities to give the world, and that fulfill him. And I will let that with no bitterness, and I don't feel like he's taking anything from me when he pursues that. On the other hand, if I have done anything, even taking care of our children, he feels threatened, he feels abandoned, he feels that I'm not doing my part. And y'all, I am a stay-at-home mom. I've made run errands, whatnot. I have not kept an outside job for a very long time. I've done some direct sales, I've done all that. But at the end of the day, my focus is completely here. So he views it as if I have outside friendships, even if I don't get to go see those people, that they're more important than him. He has to, it's almost like he has to be like the king of the house. And he's not this egotistical asshole, but he derives a lot of his self-worth through being praised a whole lot. And that's just a minor part of it. And as I talk, more things will come to my recollection that he's done. And the way that he feels very important is through physical intimacy, and that's normal, that's what married couples should do. But his demand of it has been at times inappropriate and abusive. It was only recently that he would be able to admit that, and it was very hard for me to tell anybody because he didn't like the way they looked at him. And again, I will tell you, he has acknowledged these things now are wrong. But I had to suffer through them, and try to convince him, whereas most people would just not have done it in the first place. After having had a baby, vaginal birth, him being very grumpy because we haven't been physically intimate within days afterwards, me being up all night breastfeeding, just having given birth, and very grumpy attitude towards me that I haven't done something to help him out, if you know what I mean. And that was a valid thing of his, you're paying so much attention to the baby and you just don't even care about me. And that's very immature. But for the longest time, I would accommodate that because I just didn't want to rock the boat. I liked peace in my house. I liked him being pleased with me. I liked him not being angry with me. And this went on for many, many years, through every baby, through everything that we would go through, moving. I don't know, when we had Matthew, the day before I went to give birth to him, I wanted to spend quiet time in my bed and enjoy him moving for the last night, because after he came out, he was going to die. That was it, my body supported his and he wasn't going to make it. And he wanted to be intimate that night and was angry that I wouldn't, because he needed me. I could not do it. And we almost divorced after all that, just because of how much physical intimacy he needed. And both of us were immature at the time, and I should have known he needed that, but I don't feel like I should have to sacrifice my body in order to make him feel better. And a lot of that goes back to patriarchal Christianity, which we were steeped in. And that whole thing is that, your body doesn't belong to you, it belongs to your husband. That's biblical. But it says for you to love your body as you love yourself. And if you have a toothache, you're not going to, bite into an apple. So asking your spouse to bite into an apple when they have a toothache to make you feel better is wrong. It just is. And the black and white of the right and wrong is where I finally put my foot down in this marriage. We have had many, 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 many cycles every couple weeks where something has happened and he's not getting constant attention from me. As soon as he walks in the door, not physical touchy attention. I'm real bad about that, as far as remembering to hug and kiss and all that, because all day long it's this, and it has been for 18 years. I have people touching my body all the time, so it's not something, it's like I'm not hungry, so I don't think to get a bite to eat and offer him one. Because I've been touched all day long, my body's not saying, hey, you're lonely, you know? And he says, well, that's different. It's really not. I mean, I get something different from him, but the nerve endings are the nerve endings, and I've been touched all day long. And so my solution was, if you want to hug me and I'm just forgetting because I don't have the actual physical, you know, hunger to be touched, come and hug me. I won't push you off. I won't be mean and ugly. If you want to hug, come hug me. And his answer would be, oh, I'm sorry. You should initiate it. If you love me, you'd initiate it. You would remember. You would know. And to me, that's like just a no-win situation, because I'm not actively doing something to harm him. I'm just being, you know, a dunce. I mean, just not, you know, actively trying to hurt him. So there's like many cycles that have gone on. We've done this over and over and over again, where I've done something to offend him. Maybe I've been on the phone with a girlfriend when he came in, or I have spent too much time sewing. Something has pissed him off that I have ignored him. And instead of saying, Melissa, hey, you're so busy, get over here, you know, come sit on my lap, or being flirty or being fun, it starts to get ugly in the house over minimal things. Snapping at me, huffing, and then, I am so sorry, you guys. It's just, they are bickering and arguing. Noah, we do not take from her. We give it right back. Yes, Mom. After, you know, the sort of passive aggressive, you know, letting me know he's not happy with me, he'll just come right out and say, you know what, you don't love me. You treated me like crap because, you know, 2 days ago when I tried to hug you, you ran off to the bathroom and said, you know, you were only going to be there a minute, and you stayed in there. Well, I went to the bathroom, and then I saw that something spilled, and I cleaned that, and I just get distracted. Instead of even asking me, why were you in there that long? You have dysentery? He just is mad. He's mad, like, constantly. And I'll say something like, well, just forget it. We just won't even talk about it anymore. You're obviously always right. I mean, conflict all the damn time. And this has gone on for years and years and years. And the only thing I have asked is that when he is feeling a negative emotion or feeling put off, say it. Say it right then. Say, Melissa, I'm feeling negative. And he's like, but then I feel like, you know, if I have to tell you, you must not really love me. And I'm like, Jamie, we view the world in two totally different ways because we're two totally different people. And there's been uglier instances. I'm not going to go into the words and whatnot. I'm just going to put out that there's this pattern of, I've done something to not give him what he thinks he deserves. And he will tell you that, like, I deserved it. You should do this. This is what a husband and wife does. And then increasingly get meaner and meaner with me until there's a blow up. And how that would usually correct itself is that I would apologize and make up, you know, in very specific ways, and everything would be fine. And I knew if maybe we had a long weekend coming up, I better make damn sure on Saturday morning that his physical needs were taken care of before we started our day, or it was going to be hell for me. It just became this etched in pattern. And when it really got bad, is when I finally realized it wasn't a preference of mine to not be treated like that. It was a case of black and white, right and wrong. A husband should not be treating his wife like that. It was wrong. And I think there was a lot of ego in there. There was a lot of the, oh, well, you made it up to me, so it's okay. But he didn't make it up to his daughters. He didn't make it up to his sons for treating their mother like that, and them seeing the drama. So me saying, oh, it's okay, you know, it wasn't okay. And I think that's where it kind of came to a head, is instead of us, you know, it being like personal preference on how we communicated or the things that were and weren't important to us, I finally could look at this thing and say, I could probably ask anybody on the street and they would tell me the way he is treating you is wrong. That if he's upset with you for not hugging him when you came in the door, he should have hugged you, or he should have just actually said the words, I wish you would have hugged me when you came in the door, not punish me for days for my, you know, lack of doing what he wanted me to do. So that pattern is just absolutely constant. He wants something, he doesn't get it, I get punished, I have to fix it. And I stopped doing that, and that's when all hell in our marriage broke loose. It began about 3 years ago when he was in school. As far as the really bad problems, as far as when I put my foot down, the marriage just was never healthy to begin with, and Matthew sort of helped that along. But he was in his school becoming senior reactor operator. The school was extremely hard. His brain was fried. I couldn't really hold a conversation with him, and so it became my duty to make sure he was not stressed out. And I mean, that meant every single night carrying him up to the bedroom and taking care of business, anything he wanted at that point. I would send him letters to work. You know, at 2 p.m. you will get up. You will stop studying. I'm so tired of being fussed at by kids. What? What am I going to do with that? You want me to draw a butterfly? Okay, you're going to draw a butterfly?
Yes.
That's a little personality much? Oh my god. No, we don't usually let them get away with that. If you could see, her face is completely snotty. They're having a hard time. Okay, so he's in the school. He gets through it. It was so hard on our family. And I was standing in my bedroom. I was folding laundry, and he was sitting across the room in a recliner. And I said, so we made it through. We did it. You know, so I said, here's the thing, sir. I said, we've had a lot of quickie sex that's just, you know, taking you down a notch, keeping you, you know, less stressed. So I'm going to ask you if we could maybe focus a little on the romance from now on and, you know, try to get out of that routine of, you know, the wham bam thank you man thing, which it wasn't great for me, but it did keep him less stressed out. And I felt like that was my job to do it. And really at that point, he hears, you're cut off. There's no more sex for you. And I mean, I have no idea at this point. I mean, our counselor thought maybe it was like post-traumatic stress because the school was so hard and his job relied on it. And, you know, our income relied on him doing well. And so on Halloween, we were out trick-or-treating and on the way home. And I asked him if I could use his phone. I didn't have a smartphone at the time to check my email. And I started to type in Hotmail and something called Hushmail came up. And so I'm like, well, what's this Hushmail? He's like, And so long story short, he had opened up a secret email account and he had posted an ad on Craigslist in Alabama where he was going to be visiting on a business trip, soliciting sex. You know, he thought I was leaving him. He thought I wasn't going to be with him anymore, and he was going to see what was out there. And the ironic part about all this is that he was never meant to be alone in Alabama. He was taking our sons with him. He wanted to have somebody to hang out with at night. So I think it was more like a curiosity thing. And after I found that, all hell broke loose in this family. It was, I could not believe. There I was pregnant. He had never been denied sex one time in his marriage. It was not shitty sex either. It was good. And I asked, can we focus a little more on intimacy? Can I matter a little more? And that's the answer he gives me. I cried for 3 days straight hysterically. He immediately got into counseling thinking maybe he's a sex addict or something. He didn't even know why he took the actions he did. Some of the emails, he put his own ad up, but he had also replied to some ads, and some of them are still haunting to me, the things he said. So he gets into a counselor, and he's like, why would you hand your phone, you know, to your wife and let her, you know, why didn't you hide it better? And so his determination was, he didn't think Jamie was a sexual addict. He thought he was addicted basically to me. I was his system that made him feel, you know, validated and important, and he felt threatened that I was taking this away from him, which that never happened. But he said it was kind of like a temper tantrum. Jamie was going to show me if I wasn't going to toe the line, he was going to threaten that he'll find it elsewhere if he needed to. And I was just absolutely devastated, you know, just devastated. So he did end up going on the business trip. He took the boys with him. And that week we talked a whole lot. And he came back on a Friday night. And during that time on Friday night, he lied to me on the way home about texting and driving. I told him, I don't want you texting and driving. I'm using voice to text. And I'm like, if you're using voice to text on some of the things you're saying, are our boys hearing it? So it was like a no-win situation. He knew he got caught texting and driving. And, because he couldn't say, well, I'm actually using voice to text when he was saying some of the, you know, more racy things he was saying. And so it was so silly, but because he lied to me about it, I flipped out. I'm like, no, you cannot keep freaking lying to me. No, ever, never, ever again. No more lies. And so he gets home from, you know, driving from Alabama, and I won't talk to him. I wouldn't hug him. I was like, do not touch me ever again. I was done. So I go upstairs and I'm like, you know what? We need to sleep this off. I'm angry. I'm upset. You have put so much on my plate. I can't even possibly process this. I go upstairs. 10 minutes later, I come back down. I'm like, where the hell are you? You said we're going to bed. And he has downed a fifth of whiskey. I'm talking the whole thing down. And he's already drunk. I mean, it was on an empty stomach. He flipped his shit. At that point, I had never really seen anybody that drunk in my life. He got up. He was stumbling. He had got up and went to get a drink at a refrigerator that has like a filter thing, and he's, the water's pouring into the cup, he's vomiting into the cup and then drinking it. I mean, it was so bad. And I did not know what to do. Was he going to be okay? Was he not? I remember he leaned on me, go into the bathroom, and I said, "You can't put your full weight on me. I'm pregnant. You're going to hurt the baby." And he says, "Well, I hope it dies anyway. We deserve it." And he doesn't remember saying it. But that is a wound that's never going away in our marriage. And he feels horrible about it. So I called 911. I didn't know what to do. They said he was fine. He had vomited so much of what he had drank that it wasn't a concern that the body was going to shut down. So they asked him, "Hey bud, you want to take a ride?" And he's like, "Let's go." So they said that was consent. He needed to go in, and they did. And I followed in the car. Kyle was the only one who saw any of this. Thank God. And I think that has a lot to do with how he feels about his dad now. I followed him. They gave him a shot of Zofran in his tush, and then we went home. And I went ahead and called his counselor the next morning, got an emergency session, because I didn't know, was this a suicide attempt? What the hell is happening? And we got in, and that's when we started joint counseling. And it was good. The counselor kind of looked at Jamie, like he asked Jamie's side, and then he asked my side of the story. And I remember the look on his face when I told him kind of how our dynamic worked. Him looking back at Jamie being like, "Okay, she's embellishing here a little bit. She doesn't really provide you that much intimacy, does she?" And he's like, "No, she about, covered it." And he's like, "So exactly what's the problem here? What do you have a problem with your wife? So she's asked you to communicate with her. You think there's a problem with that?" He's like, "Well, I don't feel like I should have to tell her every little thing I need." He's like, "Well, then how the hell is she supposed to know?" He's like, "Well, she knows me long enough." He's like, "It doesn't work like that. You're two different people." And she's obvious. Has she ever denied you? He's like, "No." But he did look at me and tell me that Jamie was not a cheater. He said, I've counseled many married couples, and this man's not one to cheat on you. He just wants your attention. He wants it to an unacceptable and inappropriate level, and we'll work on that. But he has not cheated on you. He was very candid with me. He doesn't even seem to have the desire. He just wants all your attention. So we went for several months. It was very good, but there was a lot of backlash from Jamie in terms of when I would do the things the counselor said, namely, if he was throwing a little fit and, I haven't had sex in 3 whole days, and you don't even care about me, I was to not give in at all, ever. He said, you do not want to keep rewarding that behavior because it's worked for him. And if you want a mutually satisfying relationship, it needs to be that way. And so it really kind of took the enjoyment out of that physical relationship for me, because it was never about enjoying it and getting lost in somebody else and loving them and just, I've experienced it a couple times in my life, but mostly that act was self-preservation for me. It was keeping him happy. And so he said, we really want to reset that for you guys and make it, a comfortable, nice, loving action that you're taking, an expression of love, not an obligation. Even months out after we kind of graduated, he said we were one of the most in love couples he'd ever seen, and he loved seeing us, and that we had something very good, that we get along very well, and that he said to me, I was very invested in not only fixing my marriage, but fixing whatever it is in me that causes pain to others, even if I'm doing something that they want me to do that it still hurt them, that I was very intentionally trying to just fix this for real, not fix feelings, but fix the bad patterns. Maybe a year later, even if I would say something to Jamie like, "Remember what Dwayne said, we need to do this," he's like, I don't know if I even liked him, and I really think that you've misinterpreted some of the things he said, or I think you're letting a stranger ruin our marriage, because basically he had it damn good. He had to have his little fit, he got to be taken to the bedroom, it didn't matter what I needed or what I wanted or what I was getting, he got what he needed. And he would do little things like make me tea or make me a plate and be like, "See, I'm a great husband." But he did not like that I wanted it to actually change. And it didn't. And the threat made him, it was like losing weight for, excuse my French, losing weight for a reunion. You'll lose the 15 pounds, but it's not a lifelong change, so it's not going to stick. That is what happened. There was a threat. He thought he could lose me, so he cleaned up his act a little bit, but very quickly slid into the older patterns that we had, and I just found myself completely miserable. I just, every day, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough. and it got old. So I'm going to leave this here because I'm seeing that it's right at 20 minutes. So that's a little bit of the first time that we attempted to repair this with the help of an outside party. And there were more, and I will do those a little later. So thanks for listening, guys.